All right, gang. Today we're going to be talking about something that's very, very deep to my heart as a real estate investor. That this is the worst time to sell a house, okay, in America, if you are a retail home seller. So, what does that mean? If you're an average home buyer that bought a home just a few years ago, now is going to be the worst time to sell a home because the market has changed, okay? And we're at the situation where if you look around from city to city, state to state, there's not that many homes up for sale. And a lot of homeowners have withdrawn their listing or canceled their listing. And what's going to happen is that we're going to have a pile of people coming, home sellers coming and listing their homes almost spontaneously right around the same time. Okay? And what that's going to do is going to flood the inventory with massive amount of inventory, which means that with the credit crunch that's happening, with the banks now lending because millions and millions of people are unemployed, millions and millions of people are defaulting on their credit cards, millions and millions of people are defaulting on their auto payments, millions of people are defaulting on their home payments called forbearance, okay? And what that means translates is the banks are losing money left and right, and they're going to contract on their limits that they're willing to put on credit cards, on mortgages, on refinancing, things of that nature. And there's going to be a credit crunch, which means there's not going to be enough buyers that can qualify to get a house. So we're going to have a situation where so many sellers haven't listed and because of the bug, and they're all going to come to the scene at one time, right? And then there's going to be a lot of buyers that want to buy, but unfortunately they're not going to be able to buy a house because of the credit crunch. And which means that for a minute there's going to be a chessmate. Okay, sellers are still thinking before the pandemic prices, and buyers are now thinking of post-pandemic, and there's going to be a freeze. No transactions are going to be done. Okay, and that's the time of price discovery, because what's going to happen is sellers think that, hey, my house is worth so much more just a few weeks ago, few months ago. They put it on there. When they finally get on the MLS, they finally hire a real estate agent, they put it on there expecting that higher price, and buyers are not going to buy because it's a credit crunch. And what that's going to do is create a discovery period where no transactions are going to be done, very little. That's when the real sellers are going to realize, holy shit, my house is not as worth as much, okay? Because once they see their neighbor drop the price down and get their house sold, more than likely more and more people are going to follow, and that's where the price discovery point will come into play. Okay, so 2016 to 2019 was the best time to sell a house because we're at the top of the market. Just like I predicted back in 2016 that this crash is going to come, that the real estate's going to go down, that the stock's going to go down, that we're going to have civil unrest. And on many of those points, I've been on par. I've been home run. Okay, now is the worst time to sell your home, and 2020 is just the beginning phase. So if someone is trying to sell their home, not financial advice, but the sooner they can sell, the better it is, because 2021 is going to be even worse, or 2022 is going to be even worse than previous, and so on. Okay, so if someone can liquidate now, it's going to be a better situation than if they waited a few years. However, 2020 is already the worst time to sell a real estate because of credit crunches, and there's going to be massive amount of inventory just come into play. Now, some of you guys and gangs will say, well, Mike, where's this inventory coming from? Where's this inventory coming from? And we forget that, hey, there's been a freeze on foreclosures. We forget that there's been a freeze on evictions. And the inventory is going to come from many different subcategories. One of the subcategories is going to be small landlords, which is basically 50% of the landlords in America are small landlords, that mom and pop landlords. And many of them are now in tough situations because Big Brother made laws that says you can't do an eviction if your rent is not paying for it. So imagine these mom and pop landlords, they saved all their life to buy these properties, 3 properties, 4 properties, 1 property, 10 properties, okay? And now they're losing their whole retirement, they're losing all their money because there's renters in the property, they're not paying rent. The landlord still has to pay the taxes, still has to pay the mortgage, the insurance, etc. And this is going to be one primary source of inventory out there. Then you're also going to have the individuals that took the freeze, the forbearance program, in their mortgages. Majority of them, I would say at least 60-70% of them, right, time will tell, are not going to be able to have the money to come up with 4 or 5 months all at one time to pay off the mortgage, which is going to add the second subcategory of inventory. Then you consider, for example, home builders. If you look at some of these home builders, they took a big beating in the stock market. And before that, even though they've recovered some, but they're going to take another beating, in my opinion, in the second leg of the crash, stock market crash. But when it comes to real estate, they already had bad balance sheets. They already had, and I reported on my YouTube channel multiple times, some of these home builders, for every dollar they produced, they had to get indebted 4.7 times that. So what that means is, simply put, for every dollar they produced, they had to get indebted $5. So these home builders are going to be highly motivated as well. And there's so many people building homes, building apartment complexes, condos, whatever. And that's going to be another flood into the market, okay? So you're going to have home builders that are going to be competing next to the, non-motivated sellers, because maybe they didn't lose their jobs and they want to sell their homes, but they're going to be competing with home builders that provide 10-year warranties, brand new carpet and paint, etc. Okay, you're going to have people that are going to be doing the loan modifications, because many people are going to go in a forbearance program, and then they're not going to be able to pay, and they're going to try to get into the loan mod program, and it's going to be delayed for a minute, but majority are not going to get accepted in the loan mod, and those people are going to come on the inventory. Okay, you're going to have your normal everyday motivated sellers that are people going through divorces, they lost their jobs, etc. Now, talking about people losing their jobs, there's millions and millions and millions and millions of people in America that have lost their jobs. And remember, lending was so loose that anyone could get a loan these days. They even changed the debt to income ratio for more people to qualify. They changed that if you have student loans or if you have blah, 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 it's easier to get a loan. Before the virus hit, right? So you're going to have so many people that got loans, bought homes, and their homes have no equity because they qualify for some of these ultra low down payment assistance or loan assistance programs like FHA and VA. I mean, I've talked to myself many VA sellers that borrowed money and they didn't put any money in. They just walked into the property, okay? Or FHA, they put very little money in. So once these sellers that bought a house maybe back in 2016, maybe they bought a house in 2015, right? 14, they didn't put any money in, and they thought that the market was going to constantly go up and up and up. But now the discovery phase is over, and sellers are now reducing their prices. Many of sellers or borrowers, good Americans, are going to realize that, my home is not an asset, it's actually a big liability. Not only do I have to pay monthly payments to it for, but now I have a property that's worth 100, simple example, but I owe 130 on it, right? I owe 100, but I owe 130 on it, which means it's negative equity, has negative cash flow, it's underwater. And I'm pretty confident that many home sellers are just going to walk away from that, because they're not going to want to sit there and pay all this monthly fees when they have $30,000-$40,000, depending on the home. But I'm focusing on entry-level homes, first-time home buyers. They're going to be like, holy moly, man, this house has negative equity. Everyone down the street is trying to sell. People can't sell. I'm just going to walk away from this. Maybe they've got their jobs cut. So 2020 and moving forward is going to be the worst time to sell as a retail seller, as a retail seller, not only in residential but in commercial as well. Okay, because it's now a buyer's market. It's not the seller's market anymore. And right now, a lot of sellers are delusional. But once they haven't came to the market yet, I mean, if you drive around in town, you'll see maybe signs that says property coming soon because they're not willing to list it yet, but it's coming soon. Okay. Well, once everyone comes and listed at one time, there's gonna be massive inventory, shrunk of credit, and transactions are not going to get done. There's going to be a grace period, a exploration, a price exploration when nothing gets done, and that's when sellers start lowering their price. Okay, and that's why I say 2020 going forward, it's not going to be a good time to sell a home if you're a retail seller. Okay, in the commercial or residential. Now, it's a great time if you're an investor, right? It's a great time if you're an investor because this is the buyer's market, and the great news is there's not going to be a lot of competition because a lot of the home buyers, the retail buyers, they're going to buy a home. This is their dream home. This is for their kids and family. They're not going to be able to qualify to get a loan. So majority of the inventory is not going to go to the retail buyers because they can't get a loan. You follow what I'm saying? If you have any questions, leave a comment. If you're on YouTube, click the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Let me know your thoughts about the 2020 class below. And don't forget to subscribe and click the like button. Okay. Now, coming back to the story, if you have any questions, comment, leave it below. I'll be happy to answer. If you guys are on Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever you guys are, I'll answer your questions for you. I do this live, unscripted, talk from my heart. Okay. Now, guys, if you think that what I'm saying is incorrect, I highly recommend going back to 2006 and listening to my videos where I said, I can't make this up. In 2016, I said, hey, gold's going to be the play, and real estate's going to crash big time, and stock market's going to crash big time. We already saw the first leg of the stock market crash, exactly the numbers that I talked about. In my opinion, there's going to be the second leg coming, right? And real estate, the reason we haven't seen price discovery is because everyone's been scared. Listings are like 50%, 60% less all over America. Agents are starving. They're not getting listings. Okay, but once everyone starts listing, that's when price discovery is going to start happening. It's going to take a minute because no transactions are going to happen, and that's when the prices are going to start rolling down, guys. Okay, in that price discovery, when transactions are not happening, what does that mean? Seller gets an agent, they list it, they put it on the market. 1 month goes, 2 month goes, 3 month goes. They knock prices down. Keeps going. They knock prices down. Maybe they fire that agent, think, hey, that agent sucks. Let me hire another agent. They put it there, and boom. And it's going to take a while because transactions are not going to happen. Because sellers are thinking, hey, the price is going to be where it was before the virus, and the retail buyers are like, yeah, I agree with you, and I'm willing to buy your home. However, there's no lending provided. Banks are not lending because people are not paying their car payments, people are not paying their credit cards. Millions of people are in forbearance. Millions of people have lost their jobs, so they're not lending. So there goes majority of the retail buyers that would normally global up these inventory. So this is the worst time to be a retail seller, but this is the best time, in my opinion, to be a real estate investor or a cash buyer. Now, there's basically two types of buyers in this market, okay? You're going to have the retail buyers are not going to be able to get loans. So I would say there's three types, but a small percentage of them are going to be retail because it's going to be very hard to get a loan, okay? The remaining are going to be two types of buyers. You're going to have what's called cash buyers, and these are the people that understand that the market are cycles. They don't listen to the agents, they don't listen to the bankers, they don't listen to the news, and they're more astute, and they create businesses, they put the money on the side. When the market crashes, they buy stuff at a deep discount, okay? Now, just because someone may not have all the cash, like the cash buyers, doesn't mean they cannot invest in real estate, okay? Not financial advice, is my opinion, because there are other strategies out there. So the second type of investors in the 2020 class is someone like myself that uses creativity and imagination and uses a lot of skills to find deals, and create win-win situations. Okay, create win-win situations. So this is the era for investors. Now, it's not going to be the era for fix and flippers. It's not going to be the era of people that are going to, just know how to get into debt, because there are debt investors that just constantly are borrowing money, using their house as ATM, getting home equity loans, revolving credits, hard money lending. Well, those pools of lending are going to be shrinking up like crazy, because the hard money lenders are not even getting the loans now. So that's what I mean. So there's only going to, instead of being that, the debt pinner with the get the money from, the banks to buy properties, those guys are going to be out. The retail buyers are going to be out, and there's only going to be basically two types of investors: the cash investors and the guys that have the ideas, the creativity, what I teach at the Academy. Before I forget, guys, I'm having my best course on sale at the Academy, where you get access to all my best-selling courses, plus monthly coaching for $47 a month, where I teach you exactly what I'm talking about right here at my course. Plus, you get the private Facebook groups, guys. It's revolutionary. If I was you, I would get into it. There's act fast, there's limited quantity. Once I run out, the price is going to go back to $1,900 a month, guys. Right now, you can get it for $47 a month. Why am I doing it? Wife is twisting my arm, saying this is the best time to be a real estate investor, and I agree with her. She said we have to help out as many people as possible, which I agree with her as well. So I said, you know what, screw it, let's do it. Okay, let's get as many people on the Academy. Let me help them beat their dreams. It doesn't matter if you're in Las Vegas, you're in Colorado, you're in Texas, you're in Oklahoma, you're in Chicago, New York. I have students all over, and I can help you. Okay. Now, going back to the story, there's going to be two types of investors that can be have a lot of abundance or prosperity in the class: the cash investors and the people that have the creative ideas. Now, what I call OPM, other people's mortgages, or other people's money. Okay. In 2020, there's so many motivated sellers out there, and as time goes by, more and more motivated sellers are going to appear. Once the forbearance freeze is over, once the evictions start rolling, we're going to see massive amount of foreclosures happening in America, not only in America, but many other countries, okay? But I'm going to focus in this video in America. And so that's going to mean that there's going to be waves and waves of motivated sellers. These are sellers that have lost their jobs. These are sellers that have been furloughed and cannot go back. These are sellers that, maybe their unemployment check got run over. These are sellers that have small businesses and now are closed down because of what happened. And so on and so on and so on. There's millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people that are highly motivated here in America right now. Okay, so the strategy that I teach in my academy and my profit sharing is to deal with these homeowners direct, okay, and not include bankers, not include real estate agents, but actually work with homeowners direct and help them out while helping yourself out. What I call win-win situation. Because a lot of these, not a lot, majority of these motivated sellers are going to have loans in place, okay, mortgages in place, and they're going to have ultra low interest rates on their mortgages like we've never seen in the history of America, because interest rates are almost at zero, okay? And so these sellers will have massive cash cow properties, but they don't even know that they have a cash cow, because all they understand, all they know is, buy a house, live in it, and then sell it every 7 years to get a new home, okay? And when they try to sell it with the MLS, with the real estate, you're going to realize they can't sell it, okay? Or they're going to have to come up a lot of money out of pocket, or they have negative equity, and so on. So these motivated sellers also need a solution. And the solution that I teach at the Academy is that these sellers already are highly motivated, they have ultra low interest rate, and they already have mortgages in place. So why not ask the seller if they can be your personal bank while you step into their shoes and just make the monthly payments while the seller conveys the deed to you, which means that you become the rightful owner. Well, I shouldn't say you, the investor becomes the rightful owner, while the seller does seller financing, okay, and carries a note. Okay, and believe it or not, a lot of sellers will say yes, they're highly motivated. There are a lot of sellers that will also say no, and that's totally fine. Those are not my audiences. What I deal with I call myself the pawn shop of real estate, and that's what I teach my students. Not everyone needs a pawn shop, but there's still a lot of people that need a pawn shop, okay? And so what I teach my students is, since there's millions and millions of people who are highly motivated, don't allow the banks to take their property. You can go and meet these sellers through marketing, talk to them, and provide a solution where it can be a win for you and win for them. And the seller has already a mortgage, and they can just be your private bank. So then the investor doesn't need the cash, doesn't need the credit, doesn't need to, hire a real estate agent or, get all this other stuff that's normally traditionally goes with, okay? And then these investors can, buy properties that are massive cash cows, or even buy properties that have great equity, okay? Now, in 2020, there's gonna be way less homeowners that have equity, and that's why the cash offer is not gonna work that great, because there's so many people in America that are indebted. And so if you're a cash investor, there's only so many deals you can do, because most sellers don't have enough equity, or they don't have owned their house fully and clear, especially in a meltdown. So that said, if you're a cash buyer, you have to be sitting out a whole lot, because you're not going to be able to pick up properties because there's not enough equity in them. And the market is coming down, and most of these sellers are indebted. Most of these sellers got VA loans where they didn't put any money down, or very little money down, with home assistance down payments, FHA, so on. So when a cash investor sees a deal where he can't buy that 60 cents on a dollar, or 40 cents on a dollar, or 50 cents on a dollar, they're just going to walk away from that deal, because they have to have the numbers right to make it work for them. Now, if an investor doesn't have the cash, well, then he can't even get into those kind of deals. But if they have the cash, they have to wait for the right deal, because the majority of people don't have those kind of deals, okay? That's why OPM, other people's mortgages, comes into play, because with real estate, there's two types of benefits to it. Okay, well, there's three. You have tax benefits, you have equity benefits, and you have cash flow benefit. Now, cash flow can be positive or negative, depends on how the deal is structured. But I never do deals that are negative equity, because you got to be insane, right, to do those kind of deals. Unless you're really, really, really wealthy and you need the tax cuts, then that makes sense. Okay, so it depends on everyone's exit strategy and situation. Okay, if you guys have any questions, comment, leave it below. I'll take some of those questions. I'm losing my thoughts. Someone says, Rajul Lakers Jr. Sorry if I butchered your name. What do you think about owner financing? How is it looking in the near future? When you say owner financing, are you talking about me as the investor buying a house owner financing, or are you talking about my exit strategy where I turn around and I sell it via owner financing? Now, not knowing which avenue you're talking about, I'm talking about buying a house via owner financing where the seller becomes my private bank. I'm talking about where I step into the seller's shoes and just make the monthly payments if they have a mortgage. And if they don't have a mortgage, they're still willing to be my private bank, because I can sweeten the tea and give them maybe a little bit more money or a little bit more interest. However, I don't have to come up with all the cash, go through all the loops of qualifying and so on. But 2020, as an investor, if you know how to structure deals like OPM, like I teach at my academy for $47 a month, you can get it right now to it. Limited quantity is limited, guys. Well, the quality is good, but quantity is limited. This is the era for owner financing, because there are so many motivated sellers out there. They're not going to be able to sell their homes. The majority of sellers that bought a home in the past 4 or 5 years are going to now realize there's a difference between a bank appraisal, there's a difference between a real estate agent CMA, and what a true value of a home is, which I call a cash offer, right? You're going to quickly realize that, man, my house ain't worth anything, okay? Now, even in a situation where a seller's house is not worth anything because they don't have enough equity, doesn't mean it's a bad deal if you have the right skill sets. One example is, in a house that is worth 100, but the seller may owe 130 on it, that's a horrible deal for a cash investor that has no equity, okay? However, if the investor was, wanted to turn around and create a note and owner finance that to another buyer, or if they wanted to buy the property and hold it as a rental property, it may work really great. It all depends on a couple of factors, like what is the interest rate, what is the DOM, days on the market if you want to rent it out, what are the rents go for in the market. But let's say that same exact home, that the home is worth 100, the seller owes 130, and it has negative interest rate, the cash investor wouldn't touch it. But maybe an investor like me would touch it because I don't have to give the seller no money. I just have to pay their closing, and I can just make it the next month payments. And that's all the money I need to do the deal. But I look at the rents, and the rents in their area are for $2,000 a month. And I look at the guy's mortgage, and his mortgage is, $1,000 a month. I'm just making it real simple, or $1,200 a month, whatever. Okay, and I can quickly look at the difference that, hey, I can rent the house for $2,000. His mortgage is $1,200. That gives me a positive cash flow of $800 a month. Okay, so for me, that might be an amazing deal, especially if it's in an appreciating area. It's not a war zone, and the house is beautiful. It doesn't need any repairs. I can just rent it out really, really fast, and I can get $800 a month positive cash flow. Well, I might buy that deal. Because I don't care if it didn't have equity. Of course I care. I want to buy equity houses, but in a meltdown, in an economy where the asset bubbles have been so inflated, right? There's not that much equity out. So in that situation, I'm willing to take over the seller's mortgage, right? Where the seller becomes my private bank, and make positive $800 a month. And all the money I had to invest into it was maybe pay the guy's closing cost of $1,500, and the next month payment was just $1,000 or $1,200. So all in all, I'm in the property less than I could rent an apartment or rent in a house, because I got to do the first month payment and a security deposit. So in that sense, I get to own the property. I get to own the property with, have the deed. I get to own the property with less than I could rent a house. And then the amazing thing is the property spits out $800 a month positive cash flow after I pay your PITI, okay, which is principal, interest, tax, and insurance, okay, and then I can consider and configure vacancy and property management. So I'll walk away with at least $600 a month on a property that I only had to put down maybe the closing cost and the first month rent, which is probably right around $3,000, $4,000. And you can see that if I'm getting $600 a month, how long would it take me to get my initial capital back? Very, very quickly, okay? Which then allows me to have positive cash flow next year, the next year after that, the next year after that. And as a buy and hold guy, exit strategy for me is at least 7 to 10 year hold. So by that time, the renters have paid off the debt balance on the property that I own, but the loan is under someone else's name because the seller, the OPM, paid off the debt, and the market has now turned around going up, which means that now I have a massive amount of equity in the property. So meanwhile, I was getting monthly cash flow, and I got equity cash out by just being a buy and hold guy. Now there was a lot more benefits. There was depreciation. There was tax write-offs, and so on. But I'm not even going to touch on those items because I'm just going to touch on the equity and positive cash flow. So this is a creative idea where an investor can buy a property that has negative equity and still make it a win in America without having all the cash, without getting a loan themselves, without putting their own credit online, but getting all the benefits of the ownership, where you own the deed, you own the house, you get the tax write-off, you get the depreciation, you can refinance that if you wanted to, if the investor wanted to. I keep saying I'm not sure why you do that. If the investor wanted to, and so it's a lot of power. Now, the investor didn't buy it for 60 cents on a dollar, but on the other hand, he didn't have to come with all the cash, he didn't have to use his credit, he got a non-recourse loan, and $600, $800 a month positive cash flow. Not a bad deal with $3,000, $4,000 upfront money to pay for the seller's closing and make their first month payment. Okay, so this is the power of creativity, where a cash investor is not going to be able to do those deals because he or she doesn't understand. Most cash investors that I know, they buy properties two ways. They go to the auction, right? I should say three ways. They go to the auction and they buy houses from wholesalers. Right? And some of them will work the MLS. Right? They will work the MLS. That's the primary way to get deals. And I don't know how they make it, but they make it when the market is up, right? Because there's so many people on the MLS. Okay, but I don't like the auction because there's so many people there, right? And nor do I like going through the MLS because again, there's so many people there, so many eyeballs there, which decreases me finding a deal. I mean, there's so many people looking at it. What I like doing is marketing to homeowners direct and creating a win-win situation where they win and I win. The bank doesn't take their property back, and sometimes I'm able to give the seller a little bit of money. Sometimes I have the seller give me a little bit of money. Sometimes I don't give them no money. They don't give me no money, but I get their deed. So there's all types of deals out there and all types of situations out there depending on if the seller is emotionally motivated or financially motivated. Okay. So guys, if you have any questions, comment, leave it below. I'll get back with you. I'll respond to that right now with you. Okay. Someone asked about my academy. How does it work? Well, once you join, you get access to all our advanced courses, guys. We email it to you a chapter a day. So 7 days a week, you're getting content from us, okay? The very first course that you start off with is called my Mother course, right? It's like 171 chapters, and I sell it for $3,500. So right now, you can get that course plus like 16 or 15, I can't remember, my other courses, all for just $47. Plus, you get the monthly coaching, guys. We meet once a month, okay? Plus, you get the Facebook groups. Revolutionary, guys. I wouldn't hold up. You're saving $1,800 plus by joining right now in the flash sale in the academy. Where can you join? MrNoFluff.com or academy.MrNoFluff.com, ladies and gentlemen. But great question, okay? Iron 5, what's going on, man? Good to see you. What state are you in, my man? Okay, someone just asked about the new flip. Okay, guys, if you're new to real estate and you haven't done your very first deal, then I highly recommend downloading the new flip. No joke. Stop spending time on the internet, searching online, trying to get it. Because if you can't do the new flip, then you're not going to be able to do real estate. I would 99% bet that you're not going to be able to do it. If you can do the new flip and you can just do 3 deals and make money, then real estate your odds are so much better to be a real estate investor. So if you're new, you've never done real estate, stop learning about lease options, sandwiches, subject to OPM, equity maximizer, and stop doing all that stuff, dude. Because the new flip, I show you how to start a business with $100 and turn that $100 into thousands of dollars really, really fast. Plus, the new flip teaches you everything you need to know about real estate without getting into debt hundreds and thousands of dollars. So it's a revolutionary game. It makes you money now while teaching you about the business so you can stack up your chips. So whenever you get into the real estate game, you already have all the skills that's required from talking to sellers, how to market the seller, how to inspect properties, how to negotiate, so on and so on, guys, okay? And the other tip I have for you guys is, and I'm giving it to you from my heart, is, man, I see so many people learning for years. They're learning for 5 freaking years, 3 freaking years, man, and dude, stop learning. You got to take action. And what is the first thing you got to do? And I tell everyone for free, okay? There's 3 stepping stones. Business is very complex. I simplified it down. 3 stepping stones. Very first thing you got to do is lead generation. If you got no leads, you're never going to succeed in this business. So forget about sandwiches. Forget about closing, paperwork, this, that. Those are above and beyond what you need to go. If you haven't done your first deal, this is where I start. This is exactly what I tell my friends to do, my sister to do, is lead gen. Your first thing is you got to do lead gen. You got to stop learning. You got to generate leads. Now, if you can't generate leads, then you might want to spend time learning on how to generate leads, but then take action. Because if you can't get someone to call you and knock on your door, you're never going to have success. Once someone calls you, then you can worry about step number 2, which is conversion. Okay, now conversion comes into filtering, like talking to the sellers, filtering so you're not talking to everyone because, everyone is not our customer, how to give them the offers, how to do the follow-ups once they say no, because majority of sellers will say no, it's just normal, okay? And then once you get the deal, then the third step is exit strategy. And again, you don't have to learn about the exit strategy if you don't have leads. You don't have to learn about conversion if you don't have leads. Okay, and I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of students in my life, and they learned about all the other stuff underneath the moon and the stars, but they never had a seller in front of them. And how much money do you think they made? Leave a comment below. How much do you think they made? Okay, how many deals do you think they did? Okay, leave a comment below. I'll tell you, zero, zero. Okay, so I know so many students that spend $10,000 on bus tours, or $20,000 on this, or $4,000 on that, and never did deals because all the other systems that I've seen and my students have shared with me is that they teach you about everything in the world, but the actual how to get a deal. So what I do at the academy at Mr. No Fluff is I turn all that other stuff off. Are they important? Yes. But the very first thing is to do your first deal. And the very first way to do your very first deal is to generate leads. If you don't got no leads, you're not going to ever survive. I don't care what your sales skills are. I don't care what your negotiation. I don't care if you got the subject to contract, you got the lease option contract, you got a website, you got a shirt, you got your car wrap. It doesn't matter, right? If people are not calling you, you're not getting deals. So, if you want to buy houses from motivated sellers, the very first thing is lead generation, guys. And I give it to you in my academy for $47 a month, guys. Okay? If you guys have any questions, comment, leave it below. I'll be happy to answer your questions for you. Okay? My man says, I agree. I like homes with little or negative equity because it'll cost the banks more if they foreclose on the. I'm down in Georgia. Man, I'm with you on that. And on top of that, okay, houses with negative or low marginal equity is what I call low hanging fruit. They're out there everywhere. Okay, no, I don't want those. Like what I'm looking for is a higher hanging fruit. The last crash I bought a lot of those low hanging fruit, and they averaged me about 100K equity cash out plus 7 to 10 years of positive cash flow each property, okay? But this time, what I'm looking for is a seller that's going to subsidize the deal for me, okay? What I mean by that is they're going to pay me to buy their home, okay? They're going to pay me money, they're going to pay for the closing, or they're going to pay $5,000 into my pocket, or they're going to subsidize their monthly mortgage to the bank. So if they owe $1,000 a month, I'll pay $500 and they pay $500. I'll pay $700, they pay $300. So I'm looking for higher end fruits where the last crash, again, my parents are refugees, they don't read and write. I didn't know anything. I just wanted to buy as many properties as possible, subject to OPM. But this time I got a little more smarter. And so even houses with negative equity or no equity can also be home runners. You just have to babysit them for a lot longer time. Or like I said, it was a 7 to 10 year play. They're still great deals. But if I had a choice of buying a house that had marginal equity or no equity, or buying a house that had a lot of equity, I'm going to go with that one all day long. If I had an option of buying traditionally and getting in debt, or buying this way with negative equity, I'll go with this all day long because to me this is more risky. When I go borrow money from a bank, I have to sign a promissory note. I have to allow the bank to take the collateral and come after me personally. Okay, where in these type of deals that I structure with sellers, I negotiate a non-recourse loan, which means that I allow the seller only take the property, the collateral, versus come after me personally. If they don't want to do the deal, that's fine. I'll find another seller. Okay, so I'm in total control. Now, just because a house has no equity doesn't mean it's not going to give you cash flow. Cash flow has nothing to do with the equity in the property, because equity is, an opinion. One minute the opinion is the house is worth 200. Next 6 months, the opinion now is the house is worth 160. So that's the thing. Equity is what I call phantom gain. I don't like phantom gains. I like the real gain. And cash flow is the real gain. So when I buy a house, I don't, I want to buy equity, but I know equity is delusional, right? Equity is phantom. It's like a shadow. Sometimes I can capture it, sometimes I can't. But what is guaranteed is the monthly cash flow, guys. What does that mean? My mortgage to the seller or to the bank versus what the market rent is, and the difference between that. And if I can buy a house and I make positive cash flow immediately, and now I'm not talking about 100 or 200 bucks. I'm talking about a lot more in the 2020. Then that's a way better deal for me than buying a house that has equity, but I'm gonna get negative cash flow, because that doesn't make any sense. Okay, that's why I only deal with entry level homes, first time home buyers, because those are the type of homes that you can get cash cows, so you can get positive cash flow from it. But when you step into mid-level homes or in higher end homes, you usually don't get cash flow from it because the mortgage is so high, the monthly payments are so high, and you may just get equity. But I'm looking for cash flow and equity, but I'll take cash flow versus equity any day, because equity, like I said, is phantom. But if I can get that cash flow, $1,000 a month, $600 a month, guaranteed in my pocket every month, then it doesn't matter to me if the house has negative equity, because eventually the market will change. Eventually the opinions will change, and and at the same time the renters are paying off the debt, guys. Okay? If you have any questions, comment, leave it below, and go to MrNoFluff.com and join the academy. You're not gonna regret it. That's for sure. Let's see. Said, yep, and I agree, man. You can't buy coffee with equity. You can't go to Starbucks and get anything with equity. Equity is it's a phantom shadow, man. Right? Not saying that it's not good. I love equity, but I just don't trust it as much, because at any moment opinions may change. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Click the like button. Don't forget to get my free book. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and share this message. Peace.